you think Georgia at 3 might be a little bit too high? I mean, I know they're the defending national champions, but that's a boatload of defensive talent that they lost.
No.
Okay.
I don't.
I mean, maybe you're right. I'm just saying. Okay.
What was my way too early top 25? I think I had them number 2.
Okay. I mean, how many? I mean, I know that Kirby recruits at a top 2 level in the country. I mean, I get it, but I mean that was a generational type defense last year, and they lost how many starters off that defense, Mark?
My guess is I actually just did a personnel breakdown on Georgia. It's about 6 to 7.
And I know Jordan Davis. I know Walker, the other defensive player that they lost. I believe they lost their best linebacker, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, Nakobe Dean's gone. Darion Kendrick, their best corner, is gone. Their best safety, Lewis Seen's gone. Yeah, Wyatt Davis, he's on the brain now. Jordan Davis, and then his running mate, who actually I thought played better than Jordan Davis, Devontae Wyatt. Their 2 just mountains in the middle are gone. Yeah, they lose a lot. Let me put it to you this way, though. If you consider Ohio State to be the best offense in the country and to have a defense that's, well, kind of a guessing game, how good are they going to be? Yeah. They can't be any worse with that talent and with that coordinator. And when I say that their defensive line to me is the number one key to them winning a national championship, it's not the normal response to this is the key to this team winning a national championship. It's not because it's a weakness. It's because they can pretty much roll their helmets out and they're going to be good, but are they going to be great and erase a lot of issues? Even if the linebackers in the secondary improves, just to have that, as you mentioned, a devastating pass rush and just blowing up plays. To watch Georgia play Clemson and Arkansas early last season, that's when it just hit me in the face that, wow, this defense is something different. They're special. They just didn't allow the offense to run most of their plays. So my point here is if we get back to Ohio State being, let's say, the best offense in the country and if they fulfill their potential, shoot, they could be a top 10 defense, but let's say it's more reasonable that they're a top 30 to 40 defense.
Okay. I was going to say top 20, but okay.
Okay. Georgia. And when I say top 30 or 40, I don't mean statistically. I don't think that, I mean that they are, with everything taken into consideration, that they're legitimately a top 20 defense or 30 or 40 defense. Anyway, so Georgia, I am more certain that Georgia is going to be a top level offense, not to the degree of Ohio State, but they're going to be a top 10 to 15 offense. And that their defense, they're loaded on offense. That not to the degree of Ohio State, but pretty darn close. And that their defense is more of a certainty, even with losing all those guys, that I'm more certain that Georgia's going to be elite than Ohio State's going to be elite, because that defense has not been good for 4 or 5 years to the level that we expected. So I'm more sure about Georgia than I am Ohio State.
So you're saying Georgia offensively, from an offensive, so you're expecting what, Stetson Bennett, and I believe they have their tight end back this year, correct? Bowers.
They've got 3 tight ends that are going to play in the NFL. They might have 4 tight ends that are going to play in the NFL, and they will supplement their wide receivers with Brock Bowers, Eric Gilbert, and Darnell Washington. They've got 3 studs at tight end, and 2 of them are like receivers. They can play wide receiver, basically.
They have Cook and the other running back too, Mark.
James Cook is gone. Zamir White's gone. They're two.
Okay, so
They're
Cook
two
and White
leading rushers. I wouldn't consider him to be the two best rushers, but they were the guys that had the seniority and got the carries. But they're loaded at running back with Kenny McIntosh and Kendall Milton. This Kendall Milton's a stud. They're going to field a top 5 offensive line in the country, and they've got the best tight end in the country, and they've got 2 clones of him. And then their receivers, they just have waves of great receivers. When I say great receivers, let me back up. Great talent at receiver. They haven't proven it, but the couple guys that were making plays down the stretch, like Adonis Mitchell and I can't think of his name. Anyway, Dominic Blaylock, he tore an ACL last year. Anyway, they've got a handful of guys that prove to be capable in pressure games that are all coming back.
So
I just think
are you expecting
I can't name 10 or 15 offenses in the country that are going to be better than Georgia. Who are they?
Okay.
Can you think of
the Kirby Smart teams?
Can you think of 10 or 15 offenses that are going to be better than Georgia's?
Off the top of my head, probably not. But, I mean, Georgia's offenses are always seem to be, I wouldn't say pedestrian, but a lot of times Georgia is winning because of their defense and they're running the ball. From what it sounds like you're saying, they're going to be more open this year? In other words, are you expecting Bennett to have a pretty good year at quarterback?
Well, I do think that there's an argument to be made for what can happen to a quarterback when he experiences and prevails in the type situation that Stetson Bennett did. You know, you're talking about a guy that wrestled with the quarterback job, you know, would win it, lose it, back and forth, always looking over his shoulder, never considered to be the guy, always, well, we just have to kind of play him because he's experienced and he's going to, I guess, get the job done. But we'd rather have JT Daniels in there. And before that, a host of other players. And so he always was just on the cusp of losing his job. And then he wins a national championship. And in the manner that he won a national championship, he's the man. It's his team. That doesn't make his skills any better other than him working on them. And he doesn't have a high ceiling. He's going to be the same Stetson Bennett. But, man, when you are down by a score against Alabama and you just got strip sacked for a touchdown or whatever the play was, the ball rolled out of bounds. It was basically a strip sack for a touchdown. They got the ball at the 5 and Alabama scored the next play. And you know, every camera's on you and it looks like you've blown the national championship game. And he comes back from that and leads the drive and throws some lasers to bring them ahead. I just think that can just lift somebody to a whole different level of what can I face now that I haven't seen before and overcome.
Okay. So, he had big throws in that game, and I concur. But from what it sounds like, you're saying that he's going to parlay that into like a big statistical season this year, is what I'm hearing.
Not necessarily. Nope.
Oh, okay.
No,
okay.
I think he'll throw what Stroud throw 44 touchdowns last year. I think, Stetson Bennett's going to throw. I think he threw 29 last year. There's nothing wrong with that. I think he has a similar season. I think he throws 32 TDs and throws 8 or 9 picks. He gets loose with the football a little bit, but that's plenty. They're still going to have one of the 5 best defenses in the country.
Okay. All right. I mean, I know that they recruited at the high level. I just thought with the 6-7 starters that they lost on defense that maybe they take a little bit of a step back this year. But, I'm from an offensive standpoint, You do make a good point. They do have some really good players back. Bennett throwing 32 touchdowns. I might take the under on that one, though, Mark. I would take the under.
But, I might too. I'm just throwing out numbers. I'm not making a wager. But the guy threw 29 last year. So
okay.
Whether he throws 27 or 32 or whatever it is, I just think it's like there's a number of times you may have heard me state this when we talk Buckeyes during our live show, and sometimes when people want us to grind through offensive stats, and Kevin Noon's really good at this, he'll go through his spreadsheet and say, well, in 2017, we averaged 520 yards of total offense, and then it went to 513, then it went to 4 and the whole deal. And I'll be like, yeah. And that's why I say, when I say Ohio State needs a top 20 defense, I'm not talking about at the end of the year. They might be 37th, but you know what? I didn't care that they got loose against Toledo and gave up, a couple touchdowns in the second half and gave up too many yards because they were up 52-14. I want to know, what are they doing against Penn State in Iowa and Notre Dame in Michigan? Right. And I want to know what Stetson Bennett's doing against Kentucky and Alabama if they play in a championship game, and whomever they've got crossover. It's Auburn and whomever they've got. And of course, they've got a non-conference game against Oregon to start the season. So same type narrative that, if Cade McNamara could get to a playoff throwing 15 touchdowns with a really good defense, but Georgia had Georgia's defense should be as good as Michigan's defense was last year, at least.
Okay.
They're just so stacked with talent.